Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of ADMAIL. This is Adam Bergman, founder and CEO of IRA Financial. I'm here to help you find the answers to the most frequently asked questions from my clients about self-directed retirement accounts. If you want to learn more, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on social media. Just search IRA Financial. Hey everyone, Adam Bergman here, tax attorney, founder of IRA Financial, and welcome to another episode of ADMAIL. On this podcast, I am going to dissect three superb questions that I think you'll enjoy. And here's a quick snapshot of what those questions will be. The first will be chatting about setting up a self-directed IRA and doing a rollover. How do you do that? What's the process? How do you move money into the self-directed IRA? The second is having a home in a self-directed IRA. Let's say you want to use that home. What's the best way to do that? Do you sell it yourself, take a distribution? How do you actually do that procedurally? And then thirdly, can you buy a car in a self-directed IRA, refurbish it, and sell it? Is that allowable? So those are the three questions that I'm going to review and provide you the answer. So stay tuned. I think you're going to really enjoy today's podcast. So without further ado, let's get started. If you give me 5 to 7 minutes, I will get you all the info you're going to need on these three specific questions. Short, succinct, to the point. Go on with your day, but you'll get the knowledge you need so you can become the best self-directed retirement investor. Also, you'll learn something. So let's start. First question from LinkedIn. I'm setting up a self-directed IRA LLC and want to move funds from my former employer. Do you guys handle this for me? So the answer is yes and no. There's two ways to move funds into a self-directed IRA. Well, three actually. There's a contribution. You actually just contribute up to $7,000 or $8,000 if it's a traditional Roth IRA. The most common is a transfer when you're moving money from a IRA, let's say at a financial institution like Fidelity or Vanguard. And thirdly, if you're moving money from a former employer 401k or 403b or 457b, defined benefit plan. Third is called a rollover. The second is the transfer. In the case of a transfer, IRA Financial will initiate the movement of those funds. So you'll go in our app, you'll complete a transfer, some questions that will trigger the creation of a transfer form, and we'll submit that to the institution that currently holds your funds. And then that will allow that institution to then send those funds to IRA Financial tax-free. In the case of a rollover, you actually have to initiate it. So we'll help you in terms of, in some cases, we'll help you with that form. In other cases, your former employer will have a specific rollover form. And once you complete that form, the process will begin. They'll either wire or send a check to IRA Financial, allow those funds to be transferred tax-free. Whether it's a transfer or rollover, they're both tax-free. The only difference is the rollover, you technically, as the former employee, have to initiate that rollover, where in the case of the transfer, we can initiate as the IRA custodian. So you're a little bit more involved in the rollover process, but we're there obviously to help you. It's both cases, it's tax-free. It's literally a few minutes of completing a rollover form or transfer form, and then the rest is kind of handled behind the scenes. So nothing to worry about. And if you're a client of ours, we'll provide you all the necessary information you need, work with you and your former employer to get those funds moved over tax-free so you can start self-directing. Second question is from YouTube. And here's the question. I have a home in my self-directed IRA and want to start using it. Can I sell it to myself? How do I take ownership personally? So it's a good question. You basically have two options, right? You don't really need to sell it to yourself. All you need to do is just take a distribution. Because if you sell an asset to yourself, it's technically a prohibited transaction. So the real way to do this, if you want to use the property, now you don't need to do this, right? You can keep the asset in your IRA. Ultimately, once you hit 73, required minimum distribution age, you have to take in about 3 to 4% of the value as income. So as long as you have enough cash flow from any IRA, not just necessarily your self-directed IRA with IRA Financial, it could be a Fidelity or Vanguard IRA as well. You just aggregate all your IRA value, and then you would take the RMD amount, which is based off your life expectancy table, which the IRS releases each year, which will assist you in doing. But if you're not in the RMD world, you're under the age of 73, and you want to use the house, you're tired of having your IRA, you just want to use it, enjoy it, that's okay. You don't have to sell it. All you need to do is just take a distribution of it, which we will assist you with. And there's a couple things to keep in mind when you take a distribution. One, you pay tax, if it's a pre-tax IRA, on the value of the distribution, not what you paid for it, but on the fair market value as of the date of the distribution. Now, if it's a Roth IRA and you're over 59 and a half, the Roth's been open at least 5 years, you can take it out tax-free. So it's not really a taxable issue. Case of a pre-tax IRA, it is. So in essence, whether you sell it yourself, take a distribution, paying tax on the fair market value of that asset. If you're under 59 and a half, you're going to pay tax on the fair market value of that asset plus a 10% early distribution penalty. So obviously be careful, be cautious, consider the tax ramifications, but you can do it. It's your money, it's your IRA. It's not like a 401k where you need a planned trigger event. Generally, you got to leave your job or be over the age of 59 and a half before you can take money out of the 401k, or maybe have a hardship. In the case of an IRA asset, you're free to take the asset anytime, whether it's cash or in kind, like a real estate property. But remember, if you're under 59 and a half, it's tax and a 10% penalty. If you're over 59 and a half, it's tax. Okay. So it's tax on the value. Maybe the value's down. Maybe you can get a discounted valuation for lack of marketability, whether it's a piece of land or you have an interest in the LLC. And you can work with us on that. And we can give you some tips on how to properly and responsibly allocate the value of your asset for distribution purposes. But you have some options. You don't have to sell it. You just have to take a distribution, and it will determine, I should say, if it is taxable based off whether it's a pre-tax or Roth, and then obviously your holding period, whether you're under or over 59 and a half. So really good question. That's from YouTube. The third and final question of today's podcast was from Michael G. of Wilson, North Carolina. Michael wants to know, can I use my self-directed IRA to buy a car, refurbish it, and then sell it? I will not drive the car personally. So technically, the only thing to consider is whether this asset, this car, is a collectible, right? We know cars like a 62 Mustang is probably collectible, a 1955 Porsche. If you're refurbishing, a 2018 Escalade, probably not a collectible. So I'm not as worried. Now, why do I care about collectibles? Because Section 408M of the tax code says an IRA cannot buy a collectible. So as long as this car is not deemed a collectible and you're not going to drive it, because 4975 of the tax code is clear that you can't personally benefit from an IRA-owned asset. So it's a capital asset. As long as you refurbish it and sell it, I would rather you not do the refurbishing. I'd rather you hire someone to do it, because technically you're not allowed to provide service to your IRA. Again, that's under 4975C of the tax code. So if you buy the Escalade in our example, you hire someone to fix it up, and then you sell it for a profit, the IRA should be able to receive that profit without tax, assuming number one, it's not a collectible, it's not a business, right? Because that can trigger maybe UBIT, unrelated business income tax, just kind of a passive investment. Thirdly, you're not using the car, cruising around town. Fourthly, you shouldn't provide the service yourself. You should have a third party do the service. Otherwise, technically it's a capital asset. So if you do sell it for a gain, like I do have some clients that flip exotic cars, like G-Wagons or Ferraris, Lamborghinis, McLarens. And that's possible. They're not doing refurbishing. They're literally just buying and flipping, whether they're selling it from state to state, or even some I have selling out of the country. They'll buy a used G-Wagon and then they'll sell it to Costa Rica or Middle East. That's technically fine. So you just got to know what you're doing. Can't be a collectible, and you can't obviously use the vehicle or do the service refurb yourself. So that's it. Michael, thanks for that question. Thank you to the individual who submitted the question on YouTube as a comment and also on LinkedIn. And if any of you have questions, love to hear from you. You can always email us at info@IRA Financial. Just say ask Adam or Adam, ADMAIL, whatever. It'll get to me. You can put the question in, and I will do my best to get through all of them. I do have a really good queue of questions. So keep listening to the podcast, or if you're watching on YouTube, keep checking it out, because there's going to be some really good episodes coming up in the pipeline, some really good questions I think you guys will all enjoy and learn from. So if you just want to like kind of listen and watch and enjoy other people's questions, that's very cool. If you want a specific question answered, that's also really good, and happy to help. So you don't have to be a client of IRA Financial. I don't care. Just be interested, self-directed IRA investor or solo K investor that's curious. We love curiosity and love learning from each other. So keep the questions coming. Otherwise, have a great rest of your day. Thanks for hanging out with me today. And I hope I see everyone again next week. Ciao.